Yo, we're locked in again. Pull the chair up, because in the next 20 minutes I'm going to walk you through one of the most humiliating 24 hours the OVO ecosystem has stomached in a long time. Drake didn't just get caught in a bad look. Drake pressed the little blue heart underneath a video of a grown man throwing another grown man's speaker in the middle of downtown Toronto because that speaker had the audacity to play a Kendrick Lamar record. And now the same clown who filmed it, the same clown who screamed on the man peacefully bumping his music, has apparently opened a GoFundMe. Not for the victim, not for the man whose equipment he helped destroy, but a GoFundMe that reads like a hostage note asking strangers to bail his shame out. And that's only the entrance ramp, because DJ Akademiks has crawled back to the microphone claiming Drake is officially blackballed from the industry. And Maul from Rory and Maul has entered a full public crash out because Complex placed Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us at number 5 on the greatest LA rap songs of all time. So today we're setting the table before the tape runs. We're rolling the footage. We're reading the receipts. And I'm telling you right now, by the time this video wraps, you're going to understand exactly why Drake's silence is louder than any diss he could have pretended to write. Roll the tape and watch this thing breathe. Let's set the table before the clip runs, because context here is not optional. It's oxygen. A group of Kendrick Lamar supporters were minding their own business in the middle of Toronto, playing Not Like Us and other Kendrick Lamar records at a completely normal volume, on a completely normal night, in a completely normal public space. This is Kendrick Lamar's music we're talking about. The same Kendrick Lamar who physically flew into Toronto, performed a sold-out arena inside Drake's own city, and ran Not Like Us back-to-back in front of thousands of Torontonians who screamed every syllable. That is the receipt. Kendrick Lamar didn't need permission to enter the Six, and Kendrick Lamar didn't need Drake's blessing to leave with the entire city singing along. So the idea that months later, a lonely OVO foot soldier can stroll up to a peaceful crowd and demand that Kendrick Lamar's music be silenced is not tough. It's not gangster. It's not loyal. It's clownery in its purest form. And here is where the clip begins. The man doing the filming, the man escalating the whole thing, walks up shouting, "Yo, who's Kendrick?" As if he doesn't know. As if the entire planet doesn't know. As if the last 2 years of pop culture didn't tattoo Kendrick Lamar's name onto every Billboard chart, every Grammy stage, every stadium video board on earth. He knows exactly who Kendrick is. He knows exactly what the record is. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's performing. He's baiting. He's begging for a moment. And a moment is exactly what he got. Because the second his friend actually reached down, grabbed that speaker, and hurled it into the pavement, the crowd folded him up like laundry. His friend got stomped out in the middle of the street, and he stood there filming like a lookout for a job he didn't have the courage to finish. Swing reckless, land reckless. That's how this works. That's how it has always worked. Now watch the moral gymnastics that come afterward. This man, whose face is now permanent property of every hip-hop timeline on the internet, sits down in front of a camera in a hoodie, gives a wobbling voice apology, and tries to convince the world that he was defending Toronto's honor. Family, you weren't defending anything. You were performing for a like from a man who wouldn't recognize you if you walked into his own building. And Drake did give the like. That is the part that keeps everybody up at night. Drake, a grown man deep into his 30s, saw a video of one of his supporters help destroy a stranger's property over a rap song, and he double-tapped it. The sixth golden son, the same man who once told the world he was above all this, tapped the heart button like a teenager clocking in for detention. And now every Drake fan online is asked to defend that. Tell me if you're seeing the same thing. The tape gets worse, though, and this is the moment everybody keeps missing. In the apology, this man says, with a straight face, that if a Toronto fan walked into Compton and played a Drake record, they'd get jumped for it. And I want to sit with that sentence, because that's not tough talk. That's not local pride. That's not defending your city. That's an admission of the exact insecurity the last 2 years have exposed. Drake records get played in Los Angeles every single day. Drake records get played in Atlanta every single day. Drake records get played in New York, in Houston, in London, in Lagos, in Sydney. Drake is one of the biggest streaming artists this planet has ever produced. Nobody in Compton is jumping anyone over a Drake record. That is a fantasy invented to justify assaulting a stranger. And the sad part is, the man saying it seems to actually believe it, because that is the diet he has been fed by an army of stans who mistake volume for victory. Then, as if the story wasn't already unhinged enough, our filmmaker of the year decides to open a GoFundMe. Not for himself, allegedly, for the victim, allegedly, asking the internet to help replace the speaker that his friend just destroyed. Salute to the timeline for immediately clocking the trick, because the man's own bio says he's a producer. A producer. You make beats for a living. You own equipment. You know what a functioning speaker costs, and you know what it takes to replace one. You do not need a crowdfunding campaign to correct an act you personally helped cause. Hand the man one of your own speakers, close the browser tab, and go sit down. This is one of the most brazen, I broke your window, now Venmo me for the glass, moves I have seen this year, and it doesn't work. The timeline never blinks. That clip is embalmed on the internet forever. And here is where the deeper poison of the whole moment sits, because this is not just about one clown with a phone. This is about a fandom that has convinced itself it is fighting a war that ended 18 months ago. Kendrick Lamar has already lapped Drake 3 times. Kendrick Lamar won a Pulitzer years before this beef even began. Kendrick Lamar performed the Super Bowl halftime show and turned Not Like Us into a national ritual on the biggest sports stage in the country. Kendrick Lamar has already been inducted, culturally, into the conversation of greatest rappers who ever touched a microphone. But this small pocket of the internet is still running around like the war is live, like Toronto is a battlefield, like they are frontline soldiers in a conflict the other side stopped fighting a year ago because they already collected the trophies. That is not loyalty. That is not culture. That is delusion in a hoodie. Now let's pivot, because the second act of this circus is on the other end of the microphone, and it is DJ Akademiks returning to your timeline with another impossible sermon. Akademiks stood up this week and declared, with a straight face, that Drake has been officially blackballed from the music industry. Not slightly out of favor. Not currently unpopular. Blackballed. Erased. Cancelled. And his cited evidence for this grand declaration is that Drake, at the FIFA World Cup, was seated by himself in a personal box while Pharrell, A$AP Rocky, Future, and other industry figures were photographed hanging out together in a completely different section. That is his proof. That is the load-bearing beam of his entire theory. Family, let me ask you an honest question. Since when is a private luxury suite at the World Cup a symptom of exile? Drake is not sitting alone because the industry banished him. Drake is sitting in his own paid-for box because he is Drake. The man travels heavy, moves with security, and books his own space. Meanwhile, the industry section Akademiks keeps pointing at is the celebrity press box, the FIFA comped area where invited guests are placed together for photo optics. That is not a coalition. That is not a plot. That is not the ops teaming up. That is a hospitality suite. This is basic event logistics, and Akademiks is out here framing it like a war room summit. And let's actually run the receipts, because if Drake is truly blackballed, somebody forgot to mail the memo to the industry. Radio is still spinning him. His label is still marketing him. His streams are still enormous. Major publications are still writing full-length features on his every move. He just released a project. He just booked a Molly Santana feature. He is still charting. He is still headlining. Blackballed artists don't get magazine covers. They get silence. And Drake has not sniffed silence in over a decade. Genuine appreciation for the audience members who see straight through this. Because the entire blackball narrative is a manufactured cope engineered to shift the blame from Drake's own choices onto some phantom industry conspiracy. Nobody blackballed you. You alienated yourself. Then Akademiks doubled down and started raising eyebrows at the fact that Future was seen in that so-called ops section. He wants you to believe that means Future has switched sides, that the recent Drake-Future collab was a smokescreen, that friendships have collapsed. And this is where I need everybody to breathe, because the word friend is being thrown around like it means nothing. These are business relationships. Most collaborations in hip-hop are business decisions dressed up as brotherhood for the marketing rollout. Future sat where he sat because that is where the celebrity guests were placed. Future did not defect. Future did not betray anybody. Future is a grown man who chooses his own seat. And more importantly, Future and Pharrell and A$AP Rocky and every other adult in that arena is allowed to exist in a room without it being interpreted as a diss. Now dial in, because the numbers behind the scenes tell the truer story. And this is the part the OVO Defense Department cannot spin. Kai Music reported this week that Drake's odds of finishing as Spotify's top artist of the year have collapsed to 9%. 9%. This is the same man who was supposed to be icing out the summer. The same man whose team spent months teasing an industry takeover. The same man whose fans keep telling us he's running the entire genre. 9%. That is not a takeover. That is a market correction. And that number matters because it exposes the exact reason all this blackball theater is being manufactured in the first place. When the numbers stop cooperating, the excuses have to grow louder. That is a law of physics inside music PR, and Akademiks is playing his part right on cue. Now let's swing this camera one more time, because the third villain of the day is Maul from Rory and Maul. And Maul has entered the room in full public crashout mode over Complex's newly released list of the greatest LA rap songs of all time. Complex placed Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us at number 5 on that list. Number 5 out of 100 on an all-time LA rap ranking that includes NWA, Ice-T, Cypress Hill, Snoop, Dre, and every foundational West Coast anthem you can name. And instead of nodding at the honor, Maul lost his composure on camera. He scoffed. He rolled his eyes. He asked whether Too Hard for the Radio should be number 4. He argued that Gin and Juice is bigger. He kept scrolling, kept dismissing, kept refusing to sit with the simple truth in front of him. Maul, respectfully, Not Like Us isn't just a diss record anymore. It is a diamond-certified single. It is the most awarded rap song in Grammy history. It is still logging close to 1 million streams a day on Spotify, 2 full summers after it detonated. It's been sung inside NBA arenas, played at NFL stadiums, blasted at wedding receptions, spun at Juneteenth cookouts, and used as celebration music at championship parades. Not Like Us is not competing with LA classics. Not Like Us is one of them. Complex tried to honor Kendrick Lamar and accidentally handed Drake half the receipt, because you cannot even talk about the record's dominance without acknowledging the man it dismantled. And here is the deeper subtext of Maul's meltdown. Maul is not upset that a great LA song was ranked highly. Maul is upset that a great Kendrick Lamar song was ranked highly. There is a difference. And every hip-hop viewer who has been watching Maul for the last 2 years has clocked the pattern. Every time Kendrick Lamar wins publicly, Maul tightens up publicly. Every time Kendrick Lamar breaks a record, Maul finds a technicality. Every time Kendrick Lamar is celebrated, Maul finds a reason it should be softer, quieter, smaller. Bias is not always loud. Sometimes bias is a scoff on a podcast. Sometimes bias is a scroll past the top 10. Sometimes bias is refusing to say a Kendrick Lamar song is great even when the entire globe just spent 2 years proving it. And that reaction, plus the speaker incident, plus the Akademiks conspiracy, plus the 9%, plus the FIFA suite, all of it adds up to one uncomfortable conclusion the Drake fanbase does not want to sit with. Drake did not lose because Kendrick Lamar had better publicists. Drake did not lose because the industry ganged up. Drake did not lose because Toronto stopped defending him. Drake lost because Drake, over the last 2 years, has repeatedly picked the pettiest available option in every public moment offered to him. He liked the speaker video. He iced out Future for optics. He kept subliminals rolling into records that were supposed to be victory laps. He turned every collaboration into a chess move and every peer into a suspect. That is not a blackball. That is a self-inflicted quarantine. Now let me be very clear about something else, because this part matters. None of this is a demand that anybody stop enjoying Drake's music. If you love Drake's discography, you are allowed to love Drake's discography. If Take Care changed your life, keep playing Take Care. If Nothing Was the Same is your favorite album, keep playing Nothing Was the Same. Music does not have to be a jersey. You can love Kendrick Lamar and still keep Drake in the rotation. You can love Drake and still salute what Kendrick Lamar accomplished. The idea that appreciating one artist requires you to burn the other's catalog is a lie the internet keeps selling because rage is more profitable than nuance. Do not buy the merchandise. You are allowed to enjoy multiple people. That is called having ears. And here is where the whole Toronto speaker moment collapses back into itself, because the man who filmed it, in his own apology, admitted something devastating. He said he knew the victim. He said the man whose speaker got destroyed was a friend of his friend. which means this was not a chance encounter between strangers on a hostile street corner. This was somebody escalating an interaction with a person he already recognized over a Kendrick Lamar record for the sole purpose of going viral on a Drake fan page. That is not culture. That is not loyalty. That is not defending the city. That is a man setting his own friend on fire for internet applause. And when the internet turned on him, when the doxing began, when the timeline started tagging his employer, his family, his neighborhood, suddenly the tough talk evaporated and the apology camera came out. Cosmic invoice, delivered on time. And let's talk about that apology one more beat, because the man said, quote, "Everything I watch, everything I do, is American." Family, listen to that sentence again. In the middle of an apology about Toronto pride, in the middle of a rant about respecting Canadian identity, in the middle of a speech about not letting Americans disrespect the Sikhs, he confessed that his own cultural intake is entirely American. That is the cognitive dissonance at the center of the entire modern Drake stan. They cosplay loyalty to a city while consuming the culture of the very country they claim is disrespecting them. It is theater. It is costume. And Kendrick Lamar didn't have to say a single word to expose it. The man exposed himself on camera. Now here is the part that should worry every honest Drake supporter watching this. Because the biggest problem in the OVO orbit right now is not Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar already went home. Kendrick Lamar already collected the trophies. Kendrick Lamar already headlined the Super Bowl, released the album, went on tour, and moved on. The biggest problem inside the OVO orbit right now is the OVO orbit itself. It is the fans who cannot let go. It is the commentators who cannot admit what happened. It is the podcast co-hosts who cannot sit with a magazine ranking. It is the followers who will risk assault charges for a like button. That is the ecosystem eating itself. Drake does not need Kendrick Lamar to lose. Drake needs his own fan base to stop losing on his behalf, publicly, every single week. And that is why the blackball narrative is so dangerous, because it teaches the fan base that Drake's decline is somebody else's fault. It teaches them that if only the industry would be fair, if only Complex would rank differently, if only Future would sit in a different seat, if only Pharrell would smile in a different photograph, Drake would still be untouchable. And it is a lie. Drake is not untouchable because Drake stopped protecting his own crown. He stopped when he chose to run subliminals at peers instead of dominating the charts on merit. He stopped when he liked a speaker throw video instead of ignoring it. He stopped when he made everyone around him feel like a chess piece. Kings do not survive treating their court like suspects. Now let me end this the way the moment deserves to be ended, because I know some of you are typing right now, and I want the conversation to breathe. Tell me if you are seeing the same thing I am seeing. Tell me if you believe Not Like Us deserved higher, lower, or exactly the 5-spot Complex gave it. Tell me if you believe Drake is truly blackballed, or whether that word is being weaponized to hide a self-inflicted decline. Tell me if you believe the Toronto speaker fan should be criminally charged, financially responsible, or simply left to the internet's memory. And tell me if you believe Future's seat at the World Cup was a betrayal, a business decision, or the most overanalyzed chair in music history. Drop your read in the thread below because I read them, I quote them, and the sharpest takes shape the next breakdown. Salute to every one of you who rode with this video from the first second to this one. Genuine appreciation to every single subscriber, every commenter, every notification on Ride or Die, who keeps showing up when the timeline gets loud. If this breakdown hit for you, tap the like, hit that subscribe, and turn the bell on so the next explosion doesn't slip past you. Follow me on X. The handle is pinned in the description and in the top comment, because that is where the fastest tips come in, and half the videos on this channel start from a message a viewer sent me at 3 in the morning. And if you want the next chapter of this story, the one where we break down what actually happens if Drake responds, what the Kendrick Lamar camp is planning next, and why Lefty Gunplay might be about to walk out with a folder of receipts that changes this entire timeline. That video is already loading on your screen. Click it, ride with me into the next one, and let's keep the culture honest together. Locked in. See you in the next one.